Last episode, our 8th season here in this franchise came to an end at the hands of Patrick Mahomes and the Chicago Bears in an overtime game where they walked it off with a field goal after the offense went 3 and out, and we gave the ball right to Mahomes in a tie ball game 20-20. But now the Titans have won 2 straight titles, their first 2 titles in franchise history. And they're looking for a three-peat going into our 9th season, the 2031 season. But we had some change happen. We also lost a couple of players to retirement, including free safety Budda Baker, who is starting, and right tackle starter Braden Smith. So we got to fill out those holes this offseason, as well as making the right additions to our team to really get us over the hump. We were so close, just a few plays away from winning that game and punching our ticket right back to the Super Bowl. But it's been 3 full seasons now since we won it. That was back in our 5th season. And after that, we had lost Cooper Kupp, we lost Aaron Donald, and now we've gone 3 years in a row without making it back there. So what can we do to make this team better? Well, one of the first things that we're going to really have to think about is franchise tagging Trevor Offord. And that is going to be what we do with him because he did not want to take any contracts that we offered him. His re-sign interest is pretty damn low because I think because of the state income tax or something. It is because of the income tax. Otherwise, he would like to play here, but I guess the income tax trumps everything else, even though we have historic championships and we are one of the league favorites, especially this last season. So not sure why it's so low, but he did not want to re-sign. You also got to pick up the option for Morgan Stoudemire. We got to think about maybe a new left tackle in exchange for Jedrick Wills. Maybe bring in some new cornerbacks with Terry Hackett not wanting to re-sign. I'm probably just going to let him walk and offer him later on. And then think about backup running back. Probably going to try and bring back David Parson, who wants to re-sign, but he is 30 years old. He did regress a little bit down to a 77 overall, but he's coming off a career best season. And really, he actually did not regress at all. So I think I'll feel comfortable offering him at least like a 2-year contract and let BJ Traynor still progress as his backup. But we got $65 million in cap room before the franchise tag. So after we franchise tag Trevor Offord, it's going to cost a lot, or we're going to have rather a lot less cap room than we have right now. As for other changes, I definitely want to keep the interior of this offensive line around. I think like Greg Teal, Zach McCoy, and Avila were all, 3 of the best interior linemen across the entire NFL. It's just about the tackles. Can we improve over Jedrick Wills? Maybe not, but he would have won a lot of money anyways, so we're going to have to see what we can do, whether it's signing free agents or drafting somebody to replace them. We're probably going to end up having to draft at least one offensive lineman because of the lack of money that we're going to have. But we're going to have the offense will, mostly be intact, but we're going to have to bring in a couple new backups as well. And for this defense, everybody on the top of these, like every starter on this list right now, is under contract. So nobody's leaving on the defense. And we're going to see if we should sign a free safety or just give Lawrence Burns a shot as the starter. A 74 overall player, 27 years old with really solid zone coverage, but only 65 tackling. That's not going to cut it, I don't think. Neither of our coordinators were poached by any other teams, so no staff moves for us. Well, maybe I'm wrong. It looks like our OC did head somewhere else. After all, I thought that was going to happen the past week, but I guess not. Let's see where he went. The Jaguars hired Nick Gregory as their head coach. So, last time this happened, last time we had a really good season, we lost our OC, Will Hudson, who was hired, I believe, by, I want to say the Commanders. They weren't ever good with him as their head coach, and now we lose our OC again after another promising season, and he's over in Jacksonville. I want to make sure that we hire somebody who at least has the X factor ready the X Factor ready talent, as well as maybe hopefully some other ones. Don't have many options here, and these guys only have the X Factor ready. I think I'll hire Brian Warner as our new OC, our third one, I think, in this series, at least, that we actually have paid attention to. So, Brian Warner has been hired. We get plenty of staff points with the new hire, so let's boost the run block by tight ends. That's been a problem for BJ Traynor especially, but also I've seen a couple of plays where Parson hasn't done his best. I don't want to focus on fullbacks. I want to focus on awareness for running backs. Did this before on the previous tree for Matthew Williams, so just going to try and fill it back out. There we go. And now it's time to franchise tag Trevor Offord, who is going to be getting a $30 million salary, which is going to be half of our cap room. But he's coming off an absolutely incredible season, a career best season. So Trevor Offord has one more year here in LA. We're going to try and get a deal done next year. Might have to shell out for it, but I think it's worth doing. I think I'll accept it. And we'll figure that out later on. Jedrick Wills and all the others are going to be let go. We're going to let Terry Hackett test, I think, and see what options we have at corner out there. Otherwise, everybody else will be a free agent that's on this list. So there's plenty of players here. So I got to replace all these guys. I have not really focused on the draft or any prospects hardly at all, but mock draft 3 looks like Troy Caldwell, a speed rusher, is supposed to go first overall. And we don't even have a selection until late in the first round at pick 30. They project us to take right tackle Dakota Lewis. Now, I have barely even looked at players except for receivers because I wasn't sure if, Tremaine Donald or Trevor Offord was going to have a year like Trevor Offord did. So don't have to focus on receiver any longer. So we won't be drafting a receiver anywhere close to the first couple of rounds. But thinking about tackle for sure. And this is your free agent class. Honestly, it looks kind of empty towards the top. Jermaine Donald was not re-signed, so he's a free agent, and he still looks like he wants to come back. We already know about him, and he's not worth $17 million a season. He has one offer right now, and we're not going to test that. We also got JSN as a free agent at 29 years old. He's got 8 other offers. He wants a $25 million cap hit. There is a running back in Brian Alexander. He's got plenty of offers. Morgan Williams, a pass rusher. Minkah Fitzpatrick as a free agent. Greg Newsome. A couple of special teams players. Terrell Aldridge. Wills is here. He wants $20 million. I don't know if we can afford that. Jawan Taylor. Adam McLeod, who is only 25 and wants half as much as Wills. And he is a power lineman, so it doesn't really fit our scheme that much. So these are the corner options. Not really a fan of too many of the ratings here, although I do like LaMichael Westerman's 88 man coverage. But a lot of these guys are only good at one kind of coverage. I would prefer somebody that can really do both. And where's Terry Hackett on this list? We got plenty of guys down here that would want to join us over here in LA, including somebody like Antonio Stroud, who could be a really solid pickup on a cheap contract. There's also Bobby Betts, who's 5'10", 83 man coverage, 92 speed. And it looks like Terry Hackett does not really have that much interest in coming back, so I'm not going to force the issue there. I would rather go for maybe a veteran corner again, like Greg Newsome, who's got 80 man coverage, 85 zone, 91 speed, good awareness, good press coverage. I like those ratings a lot. He has no other offers and wants around $9 million, so I can lower this by a little bit. Now, he also does not have that much interest, but I would rather get him over Hackett, and we're going to offer him that contract. And I also want to make sure that we get an offer out to one of these younger corners tier 2, like Antonio Stroud or Bobby Betts. So looks like the press is better, or play rec rather, is better for Antonio Stroud. Betts has better awareness. They both have really good agility and change of direction. They both have the same press. Betts has better catching, although better tackling from Antonio Stroud, which is a big concern from a couple of our defenders. I think I'll offer Antonio Stroud here as well, because he wants a pretty cheap contract, so I feel comfortable doing this. Also got to think about free safety, but all the guys available are pretty much 30 years older, unless you want to go for a guy that has a pretty similar overall as to Lawrence Burns, who is already playing at free safety. Now, there is Micah Fitzpatrick, who is a great defender, but he's 34 years old. We just had kind of a failed experiment with Budda Baker, who wasn't the best with us. Let's go look at the prospects and see if there's a player worth drafting that could fill in that position. Well, they have to have good zone coverage, and the only top zone coverage guy at free safety is Kevin Monroe here, who is a kind of a mid-round pick. At strong safety, you have some other options. The top 5-6 guys are all zone, and they just have to have at least a B zone coverage in my mind coming out of the draft to be starter worthy. Now, Jonathan Dodson here has got both B man and zone coverage, but the tackle is going to be pretty low, which is not good because we got to prevent these big plays down the field. Now, he's got a really good 40, great strength. He's a really solid athlete, so could be a selection. I'm going to add him to our draft board. There's also Mitch Alexander up here, who might have a zone coverage potentially. And he's also got a really good 40. He's probably a better athlete overall than the other guy. He pursues. He blocks. Is going to have pretty good awareness and catching, it looks like, and play rec. I think I like him a lot more overall. So Mitch Alexander. And you got Gary Myers here. So I think we have some options for a late first round pick or a late second round pick. I don't like Gary Myers that much because his speed is way lower than the other two. And his play rec is at D despite the awareness being A. So that's concerning. But there is B tackling, so that is good. I might add him below these two, but I would prefer Alexander or Dodson over Myers. And it looks like they have Alexander mocked to the Texans 1 pick before us, so we could easily trade up like 2 or 3 spots to make sure that we get him, because I think he could be a really good free safety. So it's probably going to be what we do in the first round, unless things work a little bit differently than I'm expecting. In that case, I want to focus on tackle. Is there an offer that we could or should make? There's Braxton Jones, who wants a lot less money than Wills, and he actually has more interest in coming over here as well. They're both 32. He's got better speed than Wills, better acceleration, slightly worse strength, but better awareness. Looks like Wills is a far superior pass blocker, while Jones is a way better run blocker, especially in terms of power. So it would be a slight downgrade in terms of the pass protection, but still could be a really solid signing. We'll think about that. There are potentially some options at right tackle, though. There's a couple of guys in their mid to late 20s, like Tony Cook, who's got 87 strength, solid awareness. He's only 26 years old, but is also a scheme fit. His pass block power is pretty low, which is a concern because he's going to face some power rushers. But he's got good pass block finesse, good run block finesse. He's definitely a better right tackle. So if you want to go right tackle, this is probably the guy to go after. There's also Chase Douglas, who is not a scheme fit. He's got less finesse. Ryan O'Neal is 35 years old. And then Adam McLeod, who's got the low finesse. Marcus Gregory with the low finesse. And then Braxton Davis with low power. He's 28 years old. I think I want to offer to Tony Cook here and bring him in as our right tackle. And then we can think about drafting a left tackle and focusing on that and free safety in the draft. David Parson is also a free agent, and he's got no offers right now and has interest in returning. So I'm down to offer him a 2-year contract worth about what he wants in terms of the cap hit. And lastly, I do want to bring in a speedy backup running back. Maybe somebody like Demarius Allen here, who has got 94 speed and a 4.45 expected cap hit. He's coming off here. He had only 3.5 per carry, but 946 yards. The average won't matter a lot for the backups. So if we can get somebody that has high speed and can maybe break off a couple of big runs in relief of Matthew Williams, that could be a good addition to the offense as well. So these are the 5 targets. You got the Jets in the running for Tony Cook. Hopefully we can get him. We should be able to get everybody else though, so let's find out. Looks like Newsome and Stroud did not accept, so Newsome has a lot more offers now, especially from Tennessee, the reigning champions. But we signed David Parson to a 2-year contract. He's back in LA. We also brought in a backup running back, but we did not get the right tackle Tony Cook. He instead signed with the Jets, so we gotta figure that out too now. And now that Greg Newsome has more offers, we're gonna have to increase ours, so we're gonna have to bump this up a little bit. And we got 10.8 left in cap room with Newsome's offer still way below the tight ends. I might have to look elsewhere at corner, and I think I am. I think I'm going to sign Shaquille Stuckey, who's got 86 man coverage. Now, the awareness is not really there, but the 86 zone coverage is, or man coverage rather, is really solid. He's got good press, and he only wants like $3 million in cap room, so we can save some money here with this signing. Because we missed out on Tony Cook, why not try and offer somebody like Braxton Davis, who seems to be a solid player. He's not anything great, so it's definitely going to be a downgrade from Braden Smith, but he's got really solid run block finesse, good run block overall. So he wants a pretty small cap hit. I think I feel good making a 1-year offer to him. The Cardinals have the top offer right now for Lenoir. Hopefully we can get him. I don't want to increase that really. It's not a huge concern. So let's evaluate and see who we can get here. We end up signing Braxton Davis, Antonio Stroud, and Shaquille Stuckey, but I guess Lenoir took the offer from the Cardinals instead. And it looks like he did. Okay, so he missed out on 2 corners now that we've offered to. Greg Newsome does take the deal with the Titans. Cool. I think it's still worth offering to 1 more corner, so I might actually go after Bobby Betts now, because he has really high interest. He wants a 1-year deal worth only $3 million, so I'll make the offer there. And I do want to sign, or maybe draft, another running back. So our 3rd corner has been signed. So 3 kind of mid-tier corners that we brought in to replace Terry Hackett. They'll play behind both Richards and Emmanuel Forbes. So hopefully that'll give us a lot better depth this season. So after stage 1, we still got to fill out the left tackle position. You'll probably use a backup quarterback, a fullback, a 3rd running back, maybe a 4th receiver, maybe a 3rd tight end, and probably a 4th middle linebacker, a starting free safety, and also maybe another defensive tackle for depth purposes. But otherwise, I think we're pretty solid here. So those are now the positions to fill it. Also, backup right outside linebacker too. We're going to make 2 more last-minute signings. One of them is to bring in a backup linebacker, Gerald Ricard, to play at left outside. And then Chad Bolton's going to return to the Rams as their backup once again after a couple years elsewhere. He's back behind Jesse Wagner this time instead of Damon Craig. In the newest mock draft, I don't see any safeties going in the first round, so we might not even have to trade up. If we go look at our pick now, they have us taking Martin Strong for some reason, who's a receiver. I think it's because he's probably the only guy that's at the top of the draft board, but I don't see the Texans taking Mitch, whatever his name was, in the first round any longer. All right, you know what? Just in case we don't get Jedrick Wills or not Wills, we don't get a tackle in the draft that's, solid, I'm going to sign Zach Tom just in case, just we have somebody at left tackle on the roster, because right now we don't have anybody at that position. So we're going to make this offer. That's going to be our last offer of free agency. So let's go see the top signings in the league real quick. Jay Ascen's a Cardinal. Donald is now a Raider. Alexander to the Bucks. Morgan Williams, a Jets. The Commanders got Minka Fitzpatrick. We saw Greg Newsome. Aldridge goes to Baltimore. Roman Peterson, the right guard, is going to the Raiders alongside Trumaine Donalds. Wills is going to Baltimore. Tony Cook, we saw him. Now they're signing by the Buccaneers. Chase Douglas signed by the Colts. Okay, so those are your big signings. The Cards made a couple of nice moves, but hopefully not enough to get them over the hump, right? All right, now we got mock draft 5. Just before the draft, gonna see if anything has changed in terms of where Mitch Alexander is supposed to go. And I don't see him on here yet. In fact, he's not in the first round. They have us taking Kevin Campbell at pick 30. I could see us trading up into the early second round to get both a tackle and a safety. And if Kevin Campbell is there, he's on my draft board, and he is a really good left tackle. Now, the pass block power is not really there, but everything else is in a really good spot. I would definitely take him over Alexander because I'm not opposed to letting Lawrence Burns start at free safety if we can't get one of those safeties, but we need a left tackle more than a free safety, so I think right now that's kind of where I'm leading, and they might trade up in the second round, but hopefully Kevin Campbell lasts there because that would be a really solid pick for us, I think. We've got private workouts, and I'm going to use one on Campbell just to make sure that we fully know about his profile and fully know that he is going to be a good player. Dotson has dropped all the way to a day 3 pick. Let's use it on him and see what his profile looks like. So 2 safeties plus Kevin Campbell. We get Campbell up to 90%, and yeah, I really like this guy's skill set, man. If we can get him, that would be a huge boost to the offensive line. It would be great for the future of the offensive line as well. And then at safety, we got both Alexander and Dodson up to 90%. Alexander does only have C zone coverage and C man coverage, but he's a great athlete, similar to George Vance, but has plenty of things to work on. I'm not sure that he would be, fully ready to be a starter out of the drafts. Now, would Dodson be like a sneak player that could be a starter? Because he's got B, man, and zone coverage officially with great speed. And honestly, his skill set is kind of better. It's kind of already better. I don't know why he's a day 3 pick, but I like Dodson more than I like Alexander, so you won't probably have to trade up to get him at all. Without further ado, folks, let's dive into this NFL draft here in the Year 8 offseason and see what happens. I might trade up a couple of spots just to ensure that we get the guy that we want. First on the clock, you got the Commanders, and they take Troy Caldwell as expected. The pass rusher goes first overall, followed by John McCord to the Packers. The Giants select a quarterback, Tony Khan. We'll check on all the quarterbacks that go in the first round. The Dolphins take the top receiver, Nick Rushing, and now it's the Seahawks, who are terrible this year with a 6-11 record, and they go defensive tackle. Then the Niners, right after them, they take it a linebacker, Peter Matthews, out of the U. There goes the first left tackle, Ricky Holcomb, who was supposed to go top 10. And then Michael Lampman to the Browns. The Lions take Marcus Ware. Another receiver off the board. Broncos get a corner. So no help for Damon Craig. Thought they would go offense there, but they choose not to. There goes Dakota Lewis, who was supposed to go at that pick. Mitchell Madigan to Philly. Daryl Verner to the Raiders. Devon Dawson out of USC goes to the Jaguars. Other defensive tackle off the board. Logan Bishop, right end to Baltimore. The Bengals, another NFC North or AFC North team. They go Trevor Bird. Approaching the pick that we would be trading up to get, Nate Lucas, drafted by Dallas. The Saints go Will McKnight. Now it's the New York Jets who take a quarterback, Kerry Mitchell, the second quarterback, to go here in the first round. Another linebacker, plenty of pass rushers, man. There's always like 15 pass rushers that go in the first round almost every season. We'll send one more. Actually, we can't trade with the Cardinals. We're gonna have to probably trade in front of them, if anything, because they have a bad left tackle. So if we're gonna make a trade, it's not gonna be with them. So let's try and trade up here to pick 24. We finally got it done, man. These guys just trading sometimes is just really difficult, man. We trade up 6 picks to pick 24. We give them our 3rd round pick this year, our 3rd round pick in 2 seasons, plus our 4th and 5th round picks next year. I know it's kind of a lot of picks there, but I got to make sure that we get an actual starting caliber left tackle on the team. And I don't know what the Cardinals want to do with their pick, and I don't want to take a chance. So I'm going to make the trade up, and we're going to draft Kevin Campbell, the left tackle. Welcome to Los Angeles. Normal dev, but 85 strength. I like the speed, like the acceleration. We'll see about his skill set out of the draft. It's hard to get hidden offensive linemen for sure, but I think McCoy was hidden, though, a couple years back. So after our selection, the Cardinals on the clock, and they go with TJ Booth, a linebacker. Now we got the Colts. They go corner. Another quarterback off the board, Jake Fargas out of Ole Miss. And the first running back off the board, Dante Day to the Vikings. Now the Texans on the clock, who I think we're supposed to go receiver, and they do take Antoine Parks. So now the Falcons, after the trade back, they select Brandon Clements. So now we can probably just sim to our next pick after the first round. There goes Larry Short, the corner out of Fresno State. And then the last pick, Tennessee, the reigning champions, they take the receiver Martin Strong, who was a definitive first-round talent. Mitch Alexander ends up going at the 3rd pick in the 2nd round to the Giants. So we'll check on him after the draft. We're back on the clock here and the end of the 2nd round. We have trade offers, but let's see who's available. You got Dodson here. We don't have another pick until the 4th round. Do we just take Dodson here? I don't really want to take a depth piece elsewhere because I want to focus on starters, and I think that Dodson could be that guy. It is a bit of an early selection, but I'm going to make it right now just so we can, you know, for sure have the guys that I wanted on this team. So a bit of a reach here with this selection, but we're going to bring in Jonathan Dodson, who ends up being normal dev, but I like the athletic skill set there. Hopefully he can have some solid coverage skills and can immediately play as the starter, which I think he can based on these ratings. All the way in the 4th round, after the Broncos take a receiver, we're back on the board, and 2 players left on the draft board, and we could use some better depth at defensive tackle. We didn't re-sign 1 or 2 players at that position. So you've got either LaShawn Rudolph here, who sees across the board pretty much. Poor agility, but solid speed, great strength. And then Treo Barkley, who's got pretty much the exact same athletic profile. The finesse, power, block shed. Rudolph's got pretty much the same, although Barkley's got worse awareness. I think I'll go LaShawn Rudolph here. He's normal dev, but 93 strength is pretty good, especially starting out. Alright, you know what? I want to draft a tight end, I think. Either Dylan Dixon or Chase Lilly to be our third tight end. This guy's got really good strength. Yeah, plus if there was good run blocking, but I can't really tell. Chase Lilly, really good athletic profile. Does he have a better skill set offensively? Kind of. And B run block is there. I'm taking Chase Lilly. Why not? Welcome. We need some depth at left end, so let's go make a selection there because we've only got one on the roster. It's Antoine Washington, so why not add somebody to it? Now, you pretty much only have Will, Coakley, and then a bunch of UDFA prospects, but we got some guys up to 75%, so we can look through them real quick. I still want a guy that has a poor physical rating, but it's hard to find somebody like that unless you get Derek Miller, who's got the highest speed among left ends. He's kind of a sleeper. Good play rec. Gonna have at least decent power and finesse moves. Let's take him. Our second to last pick, and we still don't have a third running back, so maybe we should think about taking one here. Again, I looked through these guys just recently, and I wasn't a fan of really anybody. Maybe David Hoover could be decent, but the carrying has got to be higher than a D. Maybe Alani Bussey. Poor agility, but great strength, decent speed, good acceleration. These guys all have like F juke move as elusive backs, although this guy's a power back, so that kind of makes sense. I guess this guy's got some good vision as well. Willie McDonald's. Let's take him. He's normal, but our third running back has arrived. There you go. Now our last pick. Who do we draft now? This McIntyre guy is drafted so far that he is not even gonna get drafted, man. How is that even possible? We haven't drafted a backup linebacker, which we could use at either left or right outside. So let's go look at those options. A couple of guys have fallen here, including Mitch Foster, who's pass coverage, but that is not a scheme fits. There's a speed rusher here and Sergio Webb. And C pursuit, C block shed. Great acceleration, solid speed. C finesse, C player like D power. I mean, it's a 7th round pick. Let's make it. So no hidden dev players for us this season, unfortunately. It's kind of, I think that's the first time in the series where I haven't drafted somebody that had hidden dev. But here's a look at the new draft class. And I think we hit on our first 2 picks. Dodson was really good. Yes, dude. He's a 75 overall. That is exactly why I took him that early. Thank God. Now, the rest of our picks weren't very good after LaShawn Rudolph, but Kevin Campbell is really damn solid. A 74 overall left tackle with normal dev. Definitely has work to do, especially with the run and pass block power, but everything else is in a really good starting place. I'm a fan of this guy. I think he will be solid for us. Now, he won't be great or anything, but he can step in and at least do a decent job, in my opinion. Hopefully, he does not get hammered too much because that would be really bad for his development. But he's only 22 years old, so plenty of time to improve and maybe even earn star dev with a good season. So we'll see about him. And we got Jonathan Dodson, who thankfully is actually a good safety as expected. 75 zone. Normal dev, obviously, but 76 zone coverage. 68 tackling, decent hip power, speed. The player like needs some work, but he's got a high motor, aggressive play ball tendency, so he might, go for a couple of INTs with that near 70 catching. He's got decent injury, but way better stamina. And I'm happy with this pick. I think he will be a vital part of this defense. Not sure he'll be better than, Budda Baker last year, but he's a pick for the future for sure. And he will start over Lawrence Burns, I think. Then we drafted LaShawn Rudolph, a defensive tackle, who's a 69 overall power or run stopper, rather. 93 strength, 72 block shed, 70 play rec. So, decent pick here, decent pick. We pretty much missed 4 straight times with our late round picks. We got Chase Lilly here, a 65 overall tight end who's got really poor route running. He's got good catch in traffic and spec catch, but that's pretty much it alongside the speed and the base catching rating. Everything else is in a really bad area, so this is not the best pick. We also drafted power rusher Derek Miller, who does not even have 70 power moves. So he's got a long way to go. Our third running back on the roster now is Willie McDonald, 64 overall out of Drake, with, fairly low speed. I mean, the skill set's not really anything special. He's probably not going to be very good. Our last pick was Sergio Webb, the speed rusher, and he only has 68 finesse moves, but 71 block shed is at least one attribute to build off of here with 80 speed, which is not very good. That's got to get better. Only 70 strength as well. Yeah, these last 4 picks weren't my best, but we focused really on the first 2 selections, and I think we hit on both of them. So I'm happy with those picks at the very least. Let's go see the top prospects in the draft. The first overall pick was the highest overall selection, Troy Caldwell, hidden dev speed rusher with 89 finesse moves, 88 speed. He's going to be a beast right off the bat. That's a really good pick by the Commanders. The first quarterback off the board was Tony Connor, who is also hidden dev, a strong arm QB with the ideal sense of pressure, ideal decision maker, pocket quarterback style, really good deep accuracy and good throw power. Needs to work on the short. It's way worse than Wagner's even was in his first season, which is a concern. The top receiver was Nick Rushing, and he was a 79 overall hidden dev receiver. Low speed, but high acceleration. A really strong overall skill set. Nothing to really bat your eye at. He's got some really good ratings. The Seahawks made a really good pick with Deron Franklin, the near 8 overall defensive tackle. He's really good. And then the Niners took Peter Matthews, who's also got hidden dev. So all these teams hit on their first selection. That sucks for us. Mitchell was the second quarterback drafted in this first round. He was a 74 overall hidden dev strong arm quarterback, which is what a lot of these quarterbacks end up being. So similar skill set as to Tony Connor. And there were 2 more quarterbacks taken first round. First was Jake Fargas, also strong arm, but way better short accuracy than either of these last 2 quarterback picks. And after that, the Falcons took Brandon Clements, who was a field general archetype quarterback with really good short accuracy, by far the best in the draft. All right, there you go. There's your top 4 quarterbacks. Now, we thought about drafting Mitch Alexander. He ends up being a 75 normal dev pick, so I don't mind missing out on him. I would have if he was hidden development, but he's got worse zone coverage than Dotson does. But with the same speed, everything else is pretty similar, so I like our pick. I don't think it was that much of a reach any longer. And I think that was it in terms of guys that we wanted to really take a look at. Except for Gary Myers, who was a 76 hidden dev safety. So he was better with better zone coverage than Dotson. So I should have taken him instead, it looks like. Oh well. I gotta sign a better 4th receiver real quick. Let's get Eric Pemberton, who's still a free agent, and this guy was really good last year, I'm pretty sure. I can't see his stats, but I think he was really solid last year. Let's sign Pemberton as our 4th receiver to replace Brandon Randolph. We also need a fullback. There is Chuck Johnson, who is the best fullback once again. He did not get the $5 million that he wanted. Now, is he worth bringing back? I think he was really good for us last year, although there are some younger players who want less money, but it's not that much of a difference. He's an 80 overall fullback. Had a couple of touchdowns. Was a really good lead blocker. Why not bring him back? Who cares? We got plenty of cap room. And as our last signing, we're going to bring in Dom Logan, another linebacker. We're going to move Jonathan Dotson to free safety. And then we can get our depth chart in order. Okay, so finally, out of the draft, out of free agency, we can look at the roster going into preseason for our 9th year. On the offensive line, you got rookie left tackle Kevin Campbell, alongside returning interior offensive lineman Greg Teal, Zach McCoy, and Steve Avila, with new signing Braxton Davis as our new right tackle. David Parson returns as the number 1 tight end, followed by BJ Traynor and Gresham. And then at receiver, Trevor Alford's going to be the number 1 guy. He'll play in the slot alongside David Jackson at the 2, with Morgan Stoudemire and Eric Pemberton backing both of those guys up. At running back, we're going to have Matthew Williams returning, backing up, or being backed up by Demarius Allen and Willie McDonald, with Jesse Wagner for year 3 as the starting quarterback, backed up by former and now current Ram Chad Bolton, with Chuck Johnson back as the starting fullback. On the defensive side of the ball, we're going to give Jonathan Dotson the nod to start at free safety. Alongside him is going to be George Vance, coming into his 4th year, so he's about to get an extension here soon. Raheem Finch at the left outside linebacker. On the opposite side of him, you got Quincy Basnight, with Daniel Levy and Carlos Ruiz between those two, backed up by Ernest Jones and Will Barrington. At corner, you got Darius Richards, Emmanuel Forbes, and then 3 new signings: Antonio Stroud, Shaquille Stuckey, and Bobby Betts. Then on your defensive line, you've got Jermaine Kennedy as the interior right end. You've got Warren Terry as the defensive tackle, backed up by Carl Graham and LaShawn Rudolph. And then Antoine Washington back after injury in the latter half of last season. He is back as the starting left end, backed up by Brian Stewart and Derek Miller. So there's your defense. There's your offense. We got Younghoe Koo and Tommy Townsend both back as our special teams punter and kickers, with Pemberton being now our top returner, so he is going to be the guy to return both kicks and punts. And then in the specialist part, we're going to play Emmanuel Forbes in the slot this year. We're going to keep our pass rush the same as it was, and then we're going to keep Trevor Alford in the slot as well, because obviously he was thriving there all of last season. So that is your roster, everybody. This is the schedule for the upcoming season. For the regular season, you got the Niners in week 1, which has been the case a couple of times. We played them 2 out of our first 3 weeks. Horrible, horrible scheduling. We have a 5-game road trip after week 1. That's interesting. So most of the away games are going to be out of the way prior to the bye week. So the second half of the year is going to be where we can really bounce back if we get off to a slow start. But we do face the reigning champion Titans, and I do want to face them in week 14 for sure. That could be a really fun game. And we got the Cowboys on the schedule, the Browns, the Buccaneers, the Ravens, and the Bengals. So the Vikings also week 2. It's been 2 straight years of really fun games against them. So I definitely do want to face them in week 2. So we're going to go through the first 2 weeks in the first 2 episodes of the season, no doubt. But did we improve the roster? I guess overall wise, probably not. But I think that we have set ourselves up for a good future at a couple of different positions. And I think that even if you don't get a better, overall starter, these guys could still play at a similar or better level to somebody who has a higher overall than them. So I think that we'll have to see how Kevin Campbell does at left tackle especially. But hopefully Dodson can be a better free safety than Budda Baker was. I know that both guys have been kind of moved out of position, but he's a scheme fit, so he should be better than Budda Baker was, I hope. But that's going to do it here, folks. That is your Rams off-season. Please like the video and subscribe. Leave your comments down below. I know that it was kind of a quiet off-season for the most part, but try to keep this team together as best we could, because I think this team has a bright future ahead of them. I think that we can get back to at least the conference championship again. So that is the goal for next season, folks. I'll see you guys in year 9, week 1 next time out. Peace.